So that's a really good question. And yes, there are a lot of stickers out there. In fact, sometimes when you take OSHA classes, you might get an OSHA sticker to put on there. So that's a good question. I'm going to take the reply to this mainly out of an OSHA letter of compliance that was answered by Fairfax, dated 10/23/2009. If you're not familiar with OSHA letters of appliance, they are interpretations from different districts of OSHA, regions of OSHA, and for all intents and purposes, they become part of that standard. If you ever have a question about what an actual OSHA standard means in reference to something that concerns you at work, and you can't get it answered just by the language of the standard, consider looking up, what you're trying to figure out and see if there's an OSHA letter of interpretation that has answered that question for you, or at least gives you a little bit better understanding of the standard issue at heart. So the specific requirements for head protection, protective helmets basically, are outlined in 29 CFR 1910-135, which incorporates by reference ANSI Z89 1-1986, Z89 1-1997, Z89 2003 as well. Both CFR 1910-132 and 1910-135 do not contain provisions that explicitly prohibit painting or the placement of adhesive stickers on helmets. However, the employer's ability to comply with the existing requirements of these standards may be adversely affected by painting or placing of adhesive stickers on the helmet shell. So I don't want to go through reading what this letter of interpretation says. I'd like folks to be able to refer to it themselves and read it, but in a nutshell, anything that you do to your hard hat that makes it difficult for you to inspect it, because part of that, the requirements is that you can inspect that head protection, continuously as you're using it, right, throughout its working life, and check it for damage, cracks, if it's starting to wear down, anything like that. So if you're painting it, putting stickers on it, and it makes it impossible or hard for you to determine if it's starting to fail, then that would not be allowed. Because as soon as you notice that it's starting to fail, if it's having any of the structural, flaws, anything like that, you've got to take it out of service and your employer will give you a new one. Same with painting. Another issue is depending upon what you put on it, there might be some solvent or something in that adhesive sticker or the paint that you put on that might actually degrade the hard shell of that, that plastic material. That's designed to protect you from impact or puncture. So that's really the intent of talking about, painting and putting stickers on. They want to make sure, OSHA does, that you're able to effectively inspect it, and also that you're not going to put anything on that hard hat that's going to degrade it, both making them, more difficult to comply with the standard. So, but again, check that Fairfax letter so you can read it for yourself, and that should hopefully answer this question pretty explicitly. Okay, so all PPE required by an employer ultimately falls to that employer as far as being responsible for it. Protective headgear must meet ANSI standard Z89.1, 1997, 2003, and 2009, or provide an equivalent level of protection. And you can see 1926.100 head protection. Even if you bring your own to use, the employer must still ensure that it's adequate. So you can look at section 1926.95B of the construction standard, or 1910.132B of the general industry standard. And you can find these requirements generally under 1910 subpart I or 1926 subpart E, which basically cover PPE in general.